MaJaMa Jams is brought to you by Chug, Chug, Chug.
Paradox. Noun. A seemingly absurd or self-contradictory statement or proposition that when investigated or explained may prove to be well-founded or true. A few famous paradoxes. I must be cruel only to be kind. William Shakespeare. Hamlet, Act 3, Scene 4. Finite infinity. Emily Dickinson. There is a solitude of space. The Concorde was the fastest commercial airplane ever flown, with a top speed of Mach 2.04, or 1,354 miles per hour. Yet, the Concorde Airport 79 is a movie that's as slow as the melting of a glacier.
MaJaMa. MaJaMa.
The Concorde Flight 28 was en route from Paris. The airplane was recently purchased by Federation World Airlines, making it America's first supersonic commercial carrier.
George Kennedy stars as the formidable Joe Petroni in this air disaster classic in which a supersonic transport plane becomes the target to a nuclear weapons expert. Dr. Harrison, played by Robert Wagner, plans to destroy the plane carrying a woman played by Susan Blakely, threatening to reveal his secret operations. Now, Petroni and Captain Paul Matran, played by Alain Delon, must prevent the damaged aircraft from breaking up and crashing over the French Alps in this dynamic fourth and final installment of the Airport series. Welcome back, everyone, to MaJaMa Jams, a show where we discuss other people's work to avoid doing our own. And today, we would like to remind you guys that although this show may seem an impenetrable wall of fantasy when you're watching on your laptop, computer, or phone, we do actually interact with the few people that interact with us, and we do take requests. Therefore, paper please.
It's everywhere.
Yes, that one. We would like to send a shout out to.
Don't show. We should have it memorized.
It's printed
I know.
on here.
Don't pretend like you put in some thought.
Alfonso Garibay 9335, who requested today's movie, which is the final installment of the iconic Airport series, Concorde, the plane that's long and flown by George Kennedy. Now, Alfonso...
Is that the title?
That's the title. Clearly...
Hates us.
Hates us.
This is unbelievable.
You understand a thing or two about these bad movies because while this was a little bit of a boring slog, there was much to make fun of. I think we were introduced to about 87,000 different old whites within the first 15 minutes, and it didn't stop from there.
Nope.
Just kept rolling on, baby.
There's one black person with a sax.
Saxophone, just to
No.
A black woman with a son.
One male, one female.
Yep.
We're capped.
Balance. Perfect.
The studio
No
said
Asians.
enough.
No Asian.
Still got to sell this thing overseas, for God's sakes.
What'd he say? What'd he say?
So, we have our beloved Ed from our beloved Naked Gun series as the lead here. This is my first introduction to the series. And like I said, while it was a smidge bit of a slog kind of churning on, there was a lot of opportunities for chuckles. And also we can kind of see the blueprint that would birth the iconic airplane with these serious, dramatic, soap opera-esque, every line delivered.
Same here.
I was gonna say.
That's crazy. Yeah. No, honestly, the coolest part about this was I really could see, because I read the book on Airplane that you let me borrow, and they talk about all these super serious, dramatic movies they're influenced by. I don't really know any of these movies. They're before my time. Seeing this and hearing us goof on it, I could totally see how the Zaz saw it and was like, what if we give these ridiculous lines to this type of scenario? And we filled in some for ourselves. So, Matthew, what happens in this movie?
We did it already. Shut up.
Matthew, we already talked about what happens in this movie. What did you think was the funniest part?
Well, first off, we learned way too much about George Kennedy's sex life. Way more than I ever imagined we would know about, let alone put on film.
This is the nicest evening I've had in a long, long time.
As if that was needed to be part of the story.
I think the best part of it was when he pops up naked with the woman next to a fireplace in a silk quilt. You tried to object to it, but also sneezed at the same time. So it came out as this, what? Ugh!
You see?
A little bit of MaJaMa Jam's alumni spotting here. We do have
Charo.
You see, this is not an average dog. This is my seeing-eye dog. I need him.
Who's been on the show several times before.
Miss Martha Ray.
The bathroom's broken.
From our beloved Hellzapoppin'.
I said to the lefty, I said to the lefty, 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 the lefty.
Episode 3, all the way back then. If you guys haven't seen Hellzapoppin', once again, on this channel, go to MaJaMa Jam's episode 3. Very kick-ass movie we love. We have Martha Ray. We have George, like I said, from Naked Gun. Any other we have Dynamite, Mr. Jimmy Walker, who will forever be linked to that phrase.
See, this is my Siamese twin. We go everywhere together. Right, Gretch?
Oh, that's right. They even sleep together.
You know, everybody's doing it. Look like y'all all set for tonight because you're sharing the sack with Kid Dynamite.
We have number 2.
Number 2 from Austin Powers, our beloved Robert Wagner is the villain.
Number 2. For 30 years, number 2 has run Virtucar, the legitimate face of my evil empire.
We have the scientist from TMNT 2, Secret of the Ooze.
The scientist from TMNT 2, Secret of the Ooze, which is how he
Warner.
will... David Warner.
This way, dude. It ain't the Hilton. Let's face it, you'd be better off staying at the Hilton.
Not
That's not
his
important.
name.
That's not
He's the scientist from TMNT 2. Forever.
Okay.
Who is he?
Anyway, there's a lot of people, guys. There's a lot of people.
Yes.
Drowning in characters here.
The first 2 hours are just pretty much introduction to these characters. And you're just like, when is it going to end? When are we going to board the plane? When are they going to die?
And also, unlike the other airports, which we will see later on after watching this, after shooting this movie.
That's a disgusting thing.
Well, I mean, the first has got to be better, right? As any franchise.
Shut up. We don't need to find out.
But I'm saying the first has got to be a little more toys.
The first one is based upon a novel of the same title.
God, imagine having to read this.
But at least...
he gets naked. His big, naked, hairy belly is hanging out. He smiles a toothy smile with gums. He says, wow, look at them flaps.
Oh, you read it.
Is that a beauty mark or cancer? We can't tell.
Yes. The first one gives you characters that somehow you care for. So you are more invested. This one, it looks like just like a parade of whatever Star Wars available that day, and they put it into a revolving cabin, which they use it many times, and they made this movie. But you're almost exhausted by how many generic people are coming. There is nothing.
Well, like you could do enough of a quirk about each of them to be like, okay, that will remind you and trigger something in your brain to think of them when you see them later in the film. It might make you care about them slightly, but we don't need that much depth and involvement into their daily lives.
Or at least if you do like in the first movies, you have in the first one there is the Martin, there is Burt Lancaster, there is Helen Hayes, I think, that she won an Oscar for her role. The second one has Charlton Heston and George Kennedy, who were both in Earthquake that came out about 4 months before.
Take it easy. All right. Okay.
Go back the way you came.
Okay.
Oh, he's reprising his role?
That is, okay, George Kennedy is the most mysterious character in the whole series. He is Joe Patroni throughout the series.
Sounds like a mob
but
boss.
In the first episode, first installment rather, he is a mechanic.
Do you have to go to work on a night like this?
They don't call them emergencies anymore. They call them Patronis.
In the second one, they depict him as a...
He's in all of them?
Kind of like, yes, he's the only one. As kind of like a CEO or a board director of something, because he has an office.
Hi.
Hey, Patroni, what the heck you doing down here? What's wrong with your fancy new office? New job doesn't keep you busy, huh?
You know how it is.
He's the same guy but switches characters?
In the third one...
I mean, that's kind of cool.
He is an independent freelancer. At least he has a cool scene with Jimmy Stewart.
I'll act as liaison between my company and the Navy. I'll bring Mr. Stevens up to date. Phil, let's take a walk and get some fresh air.
And in this one, he's even a Concorde pilot.
Captain.
So
an absolute fiend for the cat.
Eh?
He talks about women a lot.
Oh, yes.
They don't call it the cockpit for nothing, honey.
And especially about his family, about his son and his wife.
Oh my God. I know, okay, in fairness, that line is, you know, it's not delivered like it's a Neil Breen movie, but the way it's almost Naked Gun, where it's like,
How's your family?
My boy is starting college. My wife has been dead for about a year.
it's just, that was one of my favorite line deliveries and lines ever. Again,
It's not all, because he knows her, so it's not
Right.
to be like, hey, so catching up, like, my wife's been passed
Well, also
away
a
for
year is
now.
kind of fresh, like
Yeah.
the way you just did it. You put minimal effort and you'd be like, well, my wife's guy's like, and my wife's been dead a year. So you know what that means? Let's get sucked.
The third one has, again, Jimmy Stewart and Jack Lemmon among the parade of other people. So these movies were, give or take,
star-studded.
The Love Boat on air.
Now I'm guessing that
And
with
they were in the
four of
theaters.
these,
Yes.
they did well, or at least well enough to continue pumping
They
them
did
out.
the first three did very well. Then there was this. Well, but then again, they did the first one. It was shot in '69, came out in '70. Then they did Airport 75, then Airport 77, and then Airport 79. So
Did George Kennedy ever do 69? Maybe not on a film.
well, actually, the first scene that we see him, and he is actually kissing his wife on a couch, in a very, very, very sexual. Yes.
Man, this is a horny movie.
Yes, it is.
His smile says no. His eyes, they say when.
We now return to
MaJaMa.
Engine 3, no response, sir. Power, engine 1.
I think my feet are getting wet.
On flare. Number 1, good ignition, sir. Try number 2 again, Peter.
So, this might be controversial, but I don't think it was that bad.
No, it's also you have to how can I say to translate yourself at the end of the 70s.
Yeah.
There was this was already action packed for the time.
We also should say that there's no coming back from Enzo Sorrentino. So like when I'm
Yes.
watching Madam Web, I'm like, this is a slick movie with professional A-list actresses with like a budget. Like, oh my God, it's terrible. Like, once you see things that don't, so again, this looks like, I was thinking that this looks like a movie. When you get the shots of the plane, even though we get, I think there's some special effects shots which are actually very charming in their antiquated nature.
And
to the
some
point where they
beautiful
actually look
shots
cool.
of the actual plane.
But I was going to say some actual great shots, as he said, of the airplane. So it's
I
that
just
old
said
thing
that.
where like it's you get a movie, you get an actual movie with it.
Let's stop
And-
using that word so much. Once was enough, now you're abusing it.
Word?
Movie.
Especially because it is incredibly dumb.
Yes.
Your hair is my French fries.
The fact that your first because the flight goes from Washington to New York.
No.
Sorry, from Washington to Paris.
No, New York to Paris.
Or New York to Paris.
I guess it doesn't matter. Why are we
Yeah.
Concorde Dulles Tower. Radar has a 2-minute hold on you. Hold in position. Concorde Dulles Tower. Concorde Dulles Tower. 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 Dulles Tower.
From the United States to Paris.
The plane is going from...
And the next day it goes to Moscow. During the first leg of the flight, it gets attacked twice. First by a drone, then by an airplane.
2 fighter jets.
1 fighter jet. The 2 fighter jets are destroying the fighter jet that is actually attacking it.
Right.
And
Those scenes almost have a black hole-esque quality to them.
and then and then they land, and the next day everybody goes back on
Understandable
the
for the pilots. They're ex-military.
Yes.
They've been through this before. They've been tasked with this aircraft.
Your attention, please. This will be the only boarding call for the Concorde flight to Moscow.
What? Wait, but it's not even like a test. It's nothing special.
No,
right?
not at all.
It's just a plane.
Yeah.
Richard Rover.
Okay, I keep thinking it's like some kind of like, oh, here's a test aircraft that's going to be able to fly. It's just a regular aircraft, but it's a specific kind of aircraft.
No. You know what I think we're missing here?
But the fact that everyone gets back on the very next day after 7 barrel rolls being fired at, missiles being shot at you, flipping upside down.
Okay, I would like to say, we all know how pathetically awful I am on a plane. You just do a little bit of garden variety descent and my stomach is lurching. The idea of you doing 7 full barrel rolls and then he comes out and is like, everyone all right? Like,
you would start a new life in Paris.
Right?
You would be done.
I'm not getting back on any plane. But he just, after that, he casually walks out. He's like, oh, everyone's good? Okay, so folks, we're going to be like, dude, I would be like...
Like you would think there'd be like some kind of link, like, okay, why are we being attacked? Like those can't just be both freak accidents in the same
what I was
span
gonna say
of the
is
same
that
trip.
I think what we're missing here, because we're making fun of all the other elements, is that this is one of the most straight... I originally thought when I was watching it, because they throw so many characters at us, that it's complex and hard to follow. But when you read the synopsis, it's literally a guy is dating a woman. She finds out he's doing devious things. She says, I'm going to tell. He says, well, in that case, I'll bring down the plane you're on.
But then
that's it.
The stupidity.
That was this movie?
That's the whole thing. And then they can't do it, so they try to bring it down again.
But that's also the stupidest thing, is that the plane lands and he goes with her to dinner in Paris, where he could kill her at any time
Poison her,
in between. And yet, no, he waits for her to go back on the plane. And now the second part is they sabotage the hatch.
Plus, that seems pretty complicated to make the plane tear itself apart. I don't know what he installed or what he did, if that's even a real...
No, it's just like it opens the... and that's also the thing.
Oh, it's just a timer to open
it opens the hatch, and by opening the hatch, in theory, it breaks the plane in half, or at least that's the theory. But the day before, George Kennedy opened the window of a Mach 2 flying plane, puts out his arm.
97-year-old George Kennedy firing a flare out of a plane going Mach 2, and his hand is barely shaking.
Yes, and he's not even
you put your
sucked
hand out
out.
of car windows like that.
Yeah, and he should have been sucked out of the plane.
Yeah.
But also, the flare that he shoots, apparently, at least in the movie, is hotter than the engines of the plane.
Because it's a heat-seeking missile.
Yes,
and it goes
exactly.
after the flare.
So, yes.
Hold on, I've got a lighter here.
Yes. Do you have a candle? It's a little hard to keep it on.
Son of a bitch, it's jammed.
Well, you guys know what this is. It's snakeless snakes on a plane. Snakeless snakes on a plane.
Yeah.
We got to bring down this person that's going to screw up my crime. They're on the plane, and opposed to snakes, it's just, I don't know, rip the floor apart. Hey, you're a mechanic. Is there
nobody notices that gigantic crack?
I mean... To be fair, it is kind of a pretty cool visual to see someone looking down at the floor of a plane and there's like a giant tear in it to see it underneath.
That's what I'm saying. As stupid as it is, it's not that bad.
Yes.
By any means.
It wasn't necessarily pitched as bad. It was kind of pitched as fun to get drunk and laugh at.
The biggest problem that I've seen is that, unlike the other 3 movies, this one you really have nobody to care for.
Oh, God, it was horrible.
You don't really care. There's nobody that is built. Even the...
Yeah, no one's built. Look at George Kennedy's gut.
Even the couple with the heart of the kid for a transplant.
Transplant is for your son?
Yes.
He just turned 7.
He just...
You don't care. There is no...
Her husband was there?
I think it was the one who was helping her put in the stuff.
Dude,
I don't know.
He was white, though.
So what I think is completely indicative of how this movie treats its characters, as she's listed in the credits, we get Charo for about a minute-long scene, which is basically like, oh, you can't have a dog, and she leaves. That's her entire role. And that to me is indicative of how everyone is just there with...
Yeah.
So, okay, JJ is a saxophone player for an old singer. They're going somewhere. Okay, there's a couple that they want to get married. There's George. They're just...
like for instance, you mentioned Snakes on a Plane. I remember in the theater when I saw it.
Snakes on a Plane or Airport 79?
Snakes on a Plane. there is a scene very early where there is a young couple, husband and wife, and he is terrified.
If you hated flying this much, why did you let me pick Hawaii for our honeymoon?
Because that's where you wanted to go.
And I remember in the theater, everybody, aww. It doesn't matter if you like the movie or not, but at least that scene, it would give you something to care for. Someone, rather, to care for. This movie lacks that thing.
Yes.
Is the old lady in Die Hard 2, when the plane is about to land, that they set it to crash, that they frame an old lady who has something to the stewardess.
Oh, hey. We're just like British Rail, love. We may be late, but we get you there. Don't worry.
In that moment, you care for her. And so, and by the property, the transitive property, you care for the whole plane.
Well,
you say, I don't want them to die. Here, there is nobody like that.
You say that, but don't you care about George Kennedy getting to bust a nut? He talks about the entire movie.
I never was a believer in love at first sight, but that France scene, whew, what a night!
I was more cared about the fact that they have Alain Delon, one of the most beautiful men who's ever lived, and Sylvia Crystal.
Which one was he?
Sylvia Crystal, one of the most beautiful women before she went into drugs and alcoholism because she devastated herself. But they were
probably some fun times, though.
Two of the biggest sex symbols in Europe, if not worldwide.
Who's that
in
girl?
The 70s. She was the flight attendant, the one who was bringing always the coffee.
Café, monsieur? Bonjour.
Bonjour.
She did Emmanuel by Just Jacquin.
Let me tell you, Emmanuel was coming, oh coming.
Oh, trust me, Emmanuel.
That's good.
It was the.
Should have been the tagline.
Probably was.
This Christmas, he's coming, oh coming. Get busted on in IMAX, Emmanuel.
You trying to tell me she was a hooker?
Emmanuel was.
Quick question about the tagline here.
Here you have Debbie Does Dallas, as when somebody wants to talk about, wants to mention a porno movie.
That broke through?
Usually Debbie Does Dallas is one of the titles that almost everybody knows, even if they haven't seen the movie, but they kind of know. In Europe, Emmanuel, you knew exactly whom you were talking about.
It was straight porn?
It was considered erotic.
Is Debbie an actual porno, or is it like very erotic? Because it's not just straight
I think it's more porn than... I've never seen it, so I don't know. It's.
Well, here, let's go on the show. I always heard that it kind of was a mainstream porn. I'm like, was it actual porn, or was it...
I saw Daniel Does Dallas, and the girls never came.
But the guys did.
Yes, a lot, multiple times.
In Confidence, the porno movie. The girls never come.
You goddamn son of a bitch. She was great!
We now return to
MaJaMa. What is your son to study?
Medicine?
What a coincidence. So is my Philippe. We have a lot in common, Captain.
How was that woman a prostitute? She was like 60 years old.
She was an old prostitute.
Maybe she doesn't get much work. And Alain
Delon. He gives her
we should point out
$2,000.
That's a lot of money.
In 1979 is a lot of money.
She was really special.
For 2,000 francs, she'd better have been special. Wait a minute.
We should point out that the Cable Guy ripped off this movie. That's the exact plot from The Cable Guy that Jim does to Matthew Broderick.
I was getting so used to being rejected. You know, I really liked her.
Hey, who's my treat?
What do you mean it was your treat?
Thinks he's met a nice girl, and he says, well, she costs this much. And that was what caused a rift in their friendship. And we always thought that was a great plot point. Now we find out, ripped off from Airport 79, baby. Exact same plot.
What? Do you mean that Heather is a prostitute?
Of course she is.
I get that you're banging George Kennedy, so like you're gonna ask for more money.
Yeah.
But still,
right.
How'd she normally get work?
if she bangs one George Kennedy per year, she should do fine.
Sylvia, how do you afford this place? Once a year, sweetheart. Some old tub comes in from the States. Wants me to ring around the posy.
She looks like grown-up Annie. Little orphan Annie. I think she's even in a red dress.
Yes. And then there are those things that it always make me laugh. Like the Concorde is in free fall. At the last minute, they ignite engine number 1, so you can actually almost glide over the ocean. The fighter jet that is after it does the same maneuver, but either hits the water or it gets hit or both and explodes. And George Kennedy, who has just risked his life, and all the passengers says,
Ooh-wee. Thing like that could ruin his whole day.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. After they do those nauseating endless barrel rolls, the mood is very calm between the passengers, between George. So, all right, that was a little turbulence, everybody. Take your seats. We're going to get you there.
It is true that, like, for instance, I've heard the original tape where they say, Houston, we have a problem, and they are pretty calm.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here. This is Houston. Say again, please. Yes, Houston, we've had a problem. We've had a main B bus undervolt.
Despite the fact that they are in the troposphere or wherever they
yes,
are.
but those are experienced astronauts.
These are garden variety humans.
This is Joe Petroni.
These are no.
He survived the 4 airports.
For the pilots, yes, but for the passengers, they kind of seem like so casual.
The passenger, the fact that they go back onto the plane
That's
the
insane.
next day
That's insane.
is the most ridiculous thing.
And I know, like, you still got to get to Moscow, you got to get home at the very least, but you think you'd be like, let me go on a different plane. Something's up
Especially
with
because
that.
Charo boards the plane in Paris. She's not on the flight.
She's not even French.
No, exactly.
This is a really simplistic movie the more I think about it.
I know.
It's literally just like, okay, you're going to find out about my bad stuff. I got to bring the plane down. All right, we saved the plane. All right, could you try to bring it down again?
Also, who kills themselves like...
Thank you.
Like,
dude,
you can't even position your hand right
to
pull the trigger.
He literally
like
looks at the TV, he's like,
You can be firing...
Imagine you miss, you blow your ear off?
This is Maggie Whalen at the Concorde crash site. Grateful to be alive.
Speaking of
2
that,
hours later, he hit a vital organ and died.
We have a female news reporter at the beginning that she has the camera. She looks at the camera like this. If that is the camera, she looks like this, and then she cuts on the other one.
Did they not know, or was it just like a...
I don't know.
We're seeing from the perspective of the producer, not us watching at home.
I'm sure.
But again, it's...
Also, there is a guy, the studio assistant, who says, too loud as hell while she's broadcasting live at the beginning.
Surrendered to Virginia State Police. The Concorde, Flight 28.
Plus, way too much news. Like, I get you trying to give us a little piece of everything to tell us
they
who's
give
going to
you
be on
a
the plane,
whole spiel.
If there's anything worse than 70s film, it's 70s news on film.
Well, I feel like that's another case where if we were going to do the joke, or like, what if she's looking off camera and she goes to the other camera, she's still not looking in the camera. So it's hilarious because her eyes are...
Wow! Wow!
Her eyes are SNLing it, and then she goes to look somewhere else, and they're also not looking at the screen. It's a very
Also, it
funny
took me like an hour to realize that's our protagonist.
Yes.
Oh my God.
It took a little longer.
It took me a little longer than that. Dude, seriously, the plot is very simple, but like Mateo brought up, there was a heart transplant kid. If you tried to tell me any specifics, it's just so... They really just throw a deck of cards at your face, and they're like, what card would you get? Like, they all just flew at me.
Yeah. And then you have Ed Begley Jr. in the most believable... He's the guy who is
the ski patrol.
Just before the plane crash lands on the snow, he is talking on the radio. I'm sorry, in the most believable mountain landscape ever.
That was Begley.
Was he anyone at that time?
I guess he was just starting.
Was this a decently budgeted film at the time?
Yes.
Okay, so this is kind of standard fare.
Yeah.
So when Naked Gun would come out, someone who had been, following along would be like, "Oh my God, they got Joe Peroni in this. This was like his thing."
Petroni is beer.
I don't know if they tried because I never find the.
They tried to kill him.
No, I never found the information if they wanted George Kennedy also in Airplane, because being the only
makes sense.
the only one that was in Airport, you would think.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Welcome to Paris.
So I don't know if it was...
So, of course, famously, we know that they bought the script to 0 Hour and took that skeleton, but were they probably...
No,
this was on their brain with
there is plenty of... And the little girl who needs the heart transplant is in Airport 75, I think. And it was Linda Blair, the girl from The Exorcist.
That girl can't catch a break.
Would you be more forgiving of your human imperfections?
There are several elements. 0 Hour gave the main skeleton of the movie.
Joey, here's something we give our special visitors. Would you like to have it?
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
You ever been in the cockpit before?
No, sir. I've never been up in a plane before.
Joey, we have something here for our special visitors. Would you like to have it?
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Sure. You ever been in the cockpit before?
No, sir. I've never been up in a plane before.
You ever seen a grown man naked?
And then all the scene, because clearly these ones were much more popular and successful than 0 Hour, so it was easier to refer to this specific scenes.
Well, that was really cool because it almost seems like...
It wasn't that cool.
Well, I'm just saying that to kind of see the birth of one of our most beloved comedy movies, like I feel like anytime people ask about bad CGI sharks, it's like, look, we were watching a ton of those movies and we're dissatisfied with them. I feel like the Zaz trio was watching a ton of this. I mean, again, I know this because I read the book, but they love these dramatic movies, and I loved watching this mostly because you could see the direct path of what birthed Airplane.
But this one is the exact same thing of the Poseidon Adventure, the Towering Inferno, Earthquake. They're all situations where you put a bajillion of superstars in a situation where some chaos erupts.
When time ran out.
I'm going to follow you wherever you travel. You just remember that.
When time ran out, you have drama interrupted or punctuated by disasters. Some of them are much better.
This was really soapy.
Why don't you defect? You would make a good Russian.
I don't want to be a Russian.
I don't want to be American.
But that's great. We'll live in Sweden.
This is really so. I know you said all of them kind of are, but this is really like...
I mean, for instance, if you watch The Towering Inferno, which is the only Oscar nomination that Fred Astaire ever got, but for instance, his character, you genuinely care for him. You care for, oddly enough, Robert Wagner is there and is not a good guy either in there.
Is he related to Lindsay?
I don't think so.
Oh.
I'm not 100% sure.
Oh, you mean Lindsay Wagner from...
No, Lindsay Robert.
Lindsay Wagner from A Light in the Forest?
I am so sorry.
That's the exact Lindsay Wagner I was referencing.
Ah, I don't know. We'll find out.
I don't want to believe any of this.
We now return to
MaJaMa.
Also, fun fact, where fun is a little cringy, the Concorde that is used in the movie is actually the Concorde that in 2000 crashed and burned in France.
The same plane?
Is that plane.
They repaired it from the Alp crash?
Yes,
oh.
They recovered it they recovered the model.
I'm a little
and it was the last flight of the Concorde.
A little blown away a commercial flight goes at Mach 2, you know?
But not anymore.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are starting our gradual descent for landing at Charles de Gaulle Airport in Paris.
Well, it was a much smaller and sleeker plane, right? Than a normal jumbo jet.
Yes, it's a different thing, the engine and the nose and everything, so it's...
Are there still planes that go that fast? Like, can carry that many passengers?
I don't think so. There was, I think that the...
How did it exist in the 70s, but not now?
I think that there are some... there is a famous photo of the Concorde that it got snapped when a war aircraft was flying to its side. engine of the Concorde. I'm not 100% sure how it was, but it was famous for, I believe that.
But New York to Paris in 3 hours.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It was
really
pretty
crazy.
much the standard. I think that is Walter Matthau said it better in Hopscotch.
Have you traveled Concorde before?
No, not to the best of my recollection. I understand you get there before you leave.
Yes, that's right.
And it was pretty accurate at the time, but it was extremely expensive, which makes it even more bizarre the fact that Charo decides to, okay, fine, I'm not going to go on. They bought a ticket for the most expensive ticket ever for on a Concorde, and you don't want me keep this ugly dog. Fine, I'm leaving.
¿Qué te parece? No te preocupes que cuando venga la revolución yo te prometo a ti que volaremos en todo lo que tú quieras. Te lo prometo, pero qué barbaridad, qué aviones estos que se han creído.
It's
Matthew, do your Walter Matthau impression. Be him and say.
Or do like this because he's dead.
The thing about this plane is you land before you get on. Do it. Your famous Matthau impression.
Thing about the plane is you land before you get on.
Wow.
My God, it looks like having him.
I thought he was here on the couch.
Good,
yes, right? And tell his Walter Matthau's real name.
John Turlington.
Exactly. And in what movie he used his real name?
Back Row Johnson.
Exactly. It's not correct.
We'll put the answer here.
Yes, his real name. No, I know because I have to type it. No, because his real name is Walter Matuszewski.
Wow. What?
And he is signed like that. Even if there are some stories that dispute that, but apparently he
first
said
on the
that.
Call sheet Walter
Matuszewski, and he appears
Russian?
only one.
Polish?
Something like that. He appears only one credited with that name, and is in Earthquake.
Polish guy goes to the eye doctor. Doctor says, "Read that. Tell me if you can read that first line." The line says, "P X R Z K Q R P."
Polish guy says, "Read it." I know him.
It was a great joke.
You like that?
Thank you very much.
All right.
That joke is in Looking for Comedy in the Muslim World, which I promised you were going to do on this channel. Man, those dumb Polacks. We can say that because we are part Polak. We can say all the Polish jokes we want because I'm
12%.
You can say it.
Well, let's leave.
Okay.
I woke up in the middle of the night with a cold sweat. I dreamt I was being chased by a giant banana.
Let's express our feelings on Alfonso's suggestion by throwing these pieces of paper as we do. I was kind of thinking about this during it. I think I'm going to go with 1, 2, 3 and a half. I agree, Matthew, it's not really bad, but I like that it's kind of got some fun scenes and good enough to goof on with your buddies. I think Alfonso was on point in the end because we did get some good laughs just goofing on the lines and characters. 3.5 for Jason.
I go with 3 because
Fair.
It reminds me of a time that is bygone.
Yes,
plus
a relic.
Yes, plus you get to see...
When George Kennedy was having sex!
Well, we should probably let bygones be bygones and move on.
Yes. But I also grew up with all the Alain Delon's movies, like your favorite Rocco and His Brothers.
Yeah.
How many times have you watched it?
Endless.
Did you guys hear the story about the Gons?
Shut up. We don't have much time. Shut up. Shut your mouth.
No, listen, did you hear the story about the Gons that had conservative parents, so it didn't want them hooking up with people of both genders, but eventually someone said, hey, you should let bygones be bygones.
And I'm going to be voting the same as you.
Bygones?
But I kind of take that back. Actually, no, I'm gonna take the half off.
Take your top off.
Take your top off.
What?
Take your top off. The new Steam Pots of Joe's.
That's what George Kennedy said once he was hooking up with a paraplegic hooker.
It was bad, and every 15 minutes in a 70s film feels like 2 hours has passed by, but it was fine. It was actually kind of fun.
Yeah.
Matthew kind of liked it. I think you liked it more than you thought.
Except for Robert Wagner's stickers plane.
Yeah.
It looked
Dude, it really looks like an animation cell where you like, just stick it on, it's fine.
Again, I'm thinking of Black Hole where the antiquatedness becomes incredibly charming. I really did like some of our...
Wrap it up.
Okay, all right. So, Anyway.
Alexa, stop.
MaJaMa.
So I actually think Matthew enjoyed this more than he thought he was. So, Alfonso Garibay.
Learn his name. Alfonso Garibay.
Alfonso, thank you for your suggestion. We love you for doing that. Thanks for watching, buddy. Any of you guys out there who do watch, once again, we do take requests. We've taken them from Paula. We've taken them from Alfonso. We've taken them from our beloved buddy Spectre.
We've taken them from ourselves.
We've taken them from ourselves. We've taken them from...
Mostly we've taken it in the... No, never mind.
So, guys, please like, subscribe, drop a comment telling us if you thought this episode was funny too, and let us know what movie you would like to do. I'm serious. It hurts doing these things with zero interaction. Drop a movie you want to do, and from our couch to yours, this was undeniably an Alfonso-fueled jam.
He said that you shouldn't do that.
Oh.
That was just because of the blood. Oh, no, he shouldn't do that, period.
Yeah.
You shouldn't do periods because of the blood.
Yeah.
Nice.
And on that gold.
MaJaMa.
Do you need to spice up your love life? Would you like to rekindle the passion? Or do you simply have problems in keeping it up? Well, today you can achieve all that and more with the George Kennedy's Kama Sutra.
They don't call it the cockpit for nothing, honey.
You can literally steal a page from George's book when it comes to romance your partner.
Okay, son, let's get going.
George always knows what to say.
Everything within 20 feet of him that's not nailed down or strapped in is going to get sucked right out that hole.
Hold the whipped cream, I've just had dessert.
Oh, not a great deal. It's just a big hole in it. You know how it is. So I can keep my hand in. You're all doing a great job, honey. We're proud of you.
And what about that pesky G-spot?
Just keep searching, Phil. Hell, keep searching.
And he'll be your wingman who takes you under his wing. Whatever that means.
The only problem is we may not be able to stop this big lady.
The George Kennedy's Kama Sutra. Because if everything has failed so far, why the hell not? Buy your copy today and you'll receive, free of charge, its leather-bound companion. George Kennedy teaches you how to f*** a goat.